Good morning, Jess FM and Jess TV, streaming live on Roku TV. Welcome to Sunday morning edition to What's Happening with Chastity and Brian. I'm Chastity, and this is my co-host Brian. And today we have a special guest with us, Amy Badin. Amy is a recovering addict and an overdose survivor, so we're going to dedicate most of our show to talking with Amy and learning about her story. But just to start, Brian, how was your week?
Not bad. Pretty busy. But I'm always busy. If I'm not actually working, I'm doing 10,000 other things. Actually, Melinda and I have been prepping for a show on September 11th. So we've been going through a set list to perform live again for an event here in Fort Nelson. So that'll be exciting to get back on the stage.
For sure. Yeah. And if you guys are watching from Fort Nelson, there is an arts and cultural event Saturday, September 11th. I don't really know any more details than that. Brian's the details guy, and he'll be live at that show. So if you're in Fort Nelson, check that out for sure. And I'm going to just turn to Amy here. I've known Amy since she was 12 or 13 years old. Coming up in, I believe, September, she'll have been sober for 3 years, which is a huge accomplishment. Good job, Amy. Why don't you just, let's start and tell us a little bit about who you are, Amy.
Okay, thank you. First off, grateful to be here. Grateful to come spread some positivity and some hope. So just to get started, I'm Amy Badin. Just a little nervous. I'm new to this, so bear with me. So to start off, I'm Amy Badin. I'm born and raised Fort Nelson First Nation, proud band member. I'm a proud Dene woman. I'm 27 years old. I have a 4-year-old boy. His name's Lincoln. He helped me change my life around for the better, and I'm grateful for that. As Chastity said, I'm a recovering addict, and I'll be 3 years clean September 21st, 2021. Very grateful for that. And
we brought Amy here today because she's just upcoming on her 3-year mark, and she's gone through struggles just like a lot of people who are watching the show. And the goal here is maybe that her story inspires you, or maybe you're willing to share your story, because when we begin to share and we begin to connect with others, like Brian and I have talked about all along, then it becomes easier to heal. So we got to like unpack that layers of the onion, show our vulnerabilities, and then start to see who we really are and what path we want to take.
Definitely, because we got to push ourselves out of that comfort zone, right? Because if we're not growing, we're just standing still, right? And if we push ourselves continuously, we're growing and we're moving, and that's life, right? It's beautiful. We got to keep moving forward, and when life gets tough, to never give up, right?
And just for sure. And that Brian and I advocate for that 100%. So rather than to make it too stressful for you, I know you're nervous, and that's okay. Let's just start with your story. Tell us your story about how and why you started using, and how are you sitting here with us today?
Okay, so to start it off, like I said, I'm from Fort Nelson First Nation, born and raised on the reserve. So partying was really always around me growing up. My parents drank, my friends' parents drank, and it was just really a norm, right? So I started drinking at a young age, 13 years old, and which obviously led to experimenting with drugs, and it was just a never-ending cycle after that. Once I got hooked, it was the only thing I cared about, right? So just to jump in on my story, I started smoking crack when I was 14. I was drinking heavily by this point, and it was offered to me. So we'll get into that a little after.
Yeah, for sure.
But by the time I was 19, I got hooked on fentanyl. So my addiction progressed very fast, and I went downhill very fast, and life was like a living hell after that.
Can I just ask you a quick question? Like, is it super readily available?
Fentanyl.
Well, growing up here in Fort Nelson, definitely booze and not so much opiates, back then, but now today it's everywhere. It's
Wow.
everywhere. You know, there's meth, and it's getting cheaper, right? And it's just like they're getting these kids hooked, right?
And when Amy talks about fentanyl, I'm sure everybody's heard about the fentanyl crisis on the news and people overdosing from fentanyl. But I think the big thing you have to understand is fentanyl is actually a drug that's utilized. And when it's utilized at the low level, they're not overdosing. Then there's a line that's crossed.
Yes, definitely. And it's the most addictive drug, right? And I remember the first time I seen it, I was but like I said, I was dabbling with crack, and I got involved with the wrong guy. And one day they're just like, I was sick coming down off crack, and they're like, here, this will help you feel better. And after that, it was downhill ever since, right? Because you're hooked. That it makes you feel makes you numb. It takes your hurt away. You know what I mean? So, and by that point in my life, I was so down and out, and I had no stability. I was missing all my payments. Like I lost my job, and I wasn't consistent. So this little pill just made me feel amazing. You know what I mean? So I just got hooked right away. And then at this point, it made me do anything to get my fix. And that's addiction, right? It's just a never ending cycle that takes everything away from you.
So do you think that you started in the addiction realm because you witnessed it, or did something happen to you? Did something push you deeper into it?
I think the crowd I fell into was a huge role in my addiction. And just like I said, growing up on the res, it was a norm, you know, like everybody my age was getting into drinking, and I just wanted to be do the cool thing and, you know, try it. And nobody ever thinks you try it once, and that's the choice you make. That's the path you choose to take from that point on, right? And I don't think anybody goes into using and being like, I'm gonna be a drug addict for the rest of my life. But it happens, and it happens quick, man. And once you get that taste, like it's a hard battle after that, right? You gotta fight hard to get out of it.
So now, do you avoid people that are drinking or doing drugs? Like, what do you do? How do you cope with that?
Well, when I first got clean, like you got to change everything about yourself. You got to change your life, your surroundings. You got to set boundaries. And that was a huge one for me because I'm a nice person. Like I have a big heart. So that really messed me up because I care too much, and I do too much for the wrong people, right? And if you let people, they'll walk all over you, right? So
Yeah.
so boundaries is a huge one. I remember like the first week I was getting clean, and people were knocking on my door all week, and I just had to be like, leave me alone, leave me alone. I'm done. And they would even just be like, well, here, like you have it for free. Like, you know what I mean? It just, you have to be strong. You have to know that's not what you want anymore, right? So, so also growing up too, through like the party, because I remember like being in the basement of parties, right? So just growing up in that lifestyle, it's a norm. And then in those, when people are under the effects of alcohol, they do crazy stuff. So being a kid, I shouldn't have seen like a lot of things I did, right? I remember like one thing that stuck with me for my whole life was experiencing my friend being like raped, right? And walking in on that, and like seriously just walking in and seeing her passed out and a guy on top of her, right? And then 5 guys saying that they did that to her, and just being scared, right? And just not being able to trust anybody, and just having to bury that stuff, you know what I mean? Because
when it happened, like what was going through your mind?
Like, get her out of here. And when I got her out, I got her to her family. I told them what happened. I'm like, get her checked out. And that night I called to check on her, and she was like, you're a liar.
Oh, wow.
It was she was like in jail, right? So that really, I had to suppress that. And then just after that, so many things happening because of drugs and alcohol, fighting and stealing, and just so many things happening, like my parents drinking and seeing fighting, and
Was it very intergenerational for you?
De-
Like the
definitely.
lineage can go back as far as addiction.
100%. Like I can remember my parents, my grandparents, and like growing up, it was normal, right? Like
Mhm.
they were always drinking. We were always in the basement or something with a bunch of the kids from the reserve, right? The community. So yes, it was very normal. It was very normal, but yeah, as long as I can remember, I can remember people coping with drugs and alcohol, right?
Mhm.
And now that I'm clean and I took the time to feel my feelings and, really live life to the fullest, there's no other feeling, man. Like, getting clean, sober is the way to go. You know what I mean?
So those of you who are just tuning in, you're watching What's Happening with Chastity and Brian. I'm Chastity, this is Brian, and we also have here today Amy Badine, who is a recovering addict who will be 3 years clean in September, and an overdose survivor telling her story. I'm just repeating that, so if you're just coming on, we just want to share the vulnerabilities of going down this journey and show that if you're watching and maybe in the throes of addiction right now, that you are not alone in this, that there is other people out here. And our goal, mine and Brian, as well as Amy's goal, is just to inspire people
definitely.
and help them live through this and make different choices.
And that's like a huge goal of mine every day, because I used to be that, addict that was beat down at the bottom and nobody took me serious. I burned all my bridges, and it was like they kicked me when I was down. And, you just have to find that support network, that people who really do care, because there are people that care. And, everybody goes through struggles in life, and you just got to be, not scared to ask for that help. And like Chastity said, we go way back, and I remember her when I was 13, and I still go to her for support, because she's like been a solid friend of mine and plays a big role in my recovery. And she was always that one that pushed me, and she saw better in me. And I
That's
appreciate
definitely
that.
so. If you're out there helping someone, remember that they need the support. They need someone to talk to. They need a shoulder to lean on. Yes, they've burnt your bridges, but if you truly care about someone and someone truly wants to get sober, they definitely can't do it alone. They need that. They need that support around them, however it may
push.
look. So when you're talking about your addiction and using fentanyl and you were smoking crack, are those the only things? Were those your drugs of choice, or if you didn't have the money for it, would you opt for other substances?
Well, like I started by drinking, and then like crack, and then fentanyl. I got hooked on fentanyl for 5 years. I use every day. And I remember doing one pill at the beginning, and at the end of my addiction, I was doing 20 to 30 pills a day.
Oh,
Yeah. So I wasn't just using to get high at that point. I was using as a survival and to be well, right? And like at the very end, like you said, I ran out of funds, right? I lost all my jobs, I lost everything. I lost my truck, I lost my house, I lost my family, I lost everything you can imagine. So at the end of it, yeah, I was dabbling in whatever I could get at that point and doing whatever I had to do for it, right? Doing crime, just fraud, and just hurting people I loved. And it made me very, very selfish. And it's just like a dark cloud goes over you, right? And then you're stuck in that. You're stuck in that dark cloud, and it's just like pissing on you. And you're the only one that could get you out of that. The choice that you make, be like, I'm done doing this to myself, right?
okay. So how did you make that choice, Amy? You've come so far. How did you make that choice from I am an addict to I'm not going to be an addict anymore?
Well, first off, accepting I'm an addict and accepting that I need help, because denial, man, denial will kill you. And I tried to quit so many times, as I was an addict for 12 years of my life. And I was a slave to my addiction. I remember doing like imaginable things, like hurting my family, hurting my son. And I gave up everything in my life just to get high, because that's all you care about, right? You're fixated on this one thing, chasing something you'll never get again. And that's what we don't realize, right? We're stuck into this cycle until you exhausted every resource you had. And yeah, when you know it's your time to quit, you know, right?
Have you
And I just
lost a
knew
lot of friends along the way?
a lot. And Overdose Awareness Day is coming up on the 31st, and we're going to be doing an event for that. But I'm making a memorial for that, and I 7 of my friends this year passed away.
No way.
7, yeah. And
So-
they all have kids, and
This year
Wow.
has been so challenging for people, and I know, I mean, COVID and the pandemic kind of takes the blame for it, but there's a bigger crisis that is happening, and this is this addiction crisis, addiction to
Huge.
fentanyl. And I know in our community we've had significant loss from overdose, and I imagine communities around North America or around the world listening can attest and understand that. So
Mhm.
if you're able to get out and support Overdose Awareness Day, take the steps you need to know, be honest about the people who are in your lives. So
Mhm.
make sure you're not continuing to enable them. So Amy and I have a little bit of a connection there. She didn't have no money anymore.
I
And
lost my jobs.
she called me for help. And of course she wanted cash. But what did we do instead, Amy?
You took me to the grocery store and we shopped together, and you talked to me. And I remember that day, like having a bunch of groceries and sitting outside my apartment, and you just talked to me. And I remember just being so down and out and alone, and just alone. Like I was sitting in an apartment by myself that whole time. And then, so yeah, that was, like I said, that was a big time in my life, because like I said, she never gave up on me. And that's what people need, right? They need that push. They need that person that doesn't judge them and just cares for them. And they know that they have better, like they have
some more opportunities and a
yes.
better life ahead. So you may
Mhm.
not be able to make someone decide to get clean and sober, but you definitely can share a meal. You can definitely share a conversation. You can definitely buy groceries. And those are things that will help that person. And it's that type of network that will help that person, whoever it is, get through or move towards a better life. And obviously, no, every single person can't be saved. They have to want to be saved. Now you
Definitely.
have told us you're an overdose survivor. What does that mean?
So I got to the point, like I said, I was using 20 to 30 pills a day. But so in 2016, I lost my job at Sightsee, and I was selling and doing crime to support my addiction. All my bills were piling up, and I just remember using every day, all day. And I found out I was pregnant at that point too. And I just remember feeling like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna do? I can't get high, like, right? And so I went to mental health and addictions, I remember, and I tried to get on the methadone program for 2 weeks straight, and they didn't have space for me. And I was like, I'm pregnant though, like I'm pregnant. Shouldn't I be like first priority, right? And they're like, well, you're on the waiting list. You're on the waiting list. And so anyways, that was like a kick in the head. So so when I reached out for help, like I was shot down right away. And then so I was like, oh, like, I don't know. That was just really saddening, right? So and then I just kept using, right? I stopped cracking, I quit drinking and everything, but the one thing I couldn't stop using was fentanyl. And sadly, I used through my son's, like my pregnancy, um and I went through really bad labor with him, and he was in the NICU for a month straight, going through withdrawal. And I still couldn't quit because, addiction, it had me tight.
A grip on you.
A grip on me, right? So yeah, it makes you do so many bad things. And every time I was getting sober, they would hit me, right? Like a ton of bricks, the guilt, the shame, like all that, like putting my son through that. And because
It's okay.
he didn't deserve that, right?
Take your time. It's okay.
And so just like the guilt and the shame of that really made me go off the deep end. Oh,
it's okay. It's okay. Just take your time.
It's all
okay.
good, man.
This is real. This is real life, and it is unfiltered, and Amy, if you're listening on Jess FM right now and you're not watching the live stream, Amy's just a little bit choked up. This is real life for her and a process. And in this part of the story, Amy lost custody of her son. So this is a tough go for her.
And it's a passionate subject, right? And and if you didn't feel that way, then you'd have to ask a different question, right? So
you'd be worried,
totally.
Yes, so I lost my son, and like at birth, I lost him right after delivery. They took him, and I just went right back to using, like, because I didn't have any attachment to him, and I was an addict. I was a full-blown addict, right? I remember like my maternity pictures using just before it so I don't look sick, right? And just that was an everyday thing for me. So being in Grand Prairie, because that's where he was, it was a high risk delivery. So I went out and I just got into drugs even worse. By the time I got home, I was really bad. And I remember overdosing in front of his crib and nobody was home. And I came out of it and I was praying to God. I was like, thank God I came out of that, because what if I died and he would have been in his crib, right?
That's pretty heavy, yeah.
Yeah, and then that same week, and that was the second time you came and came and talked to me and really gave me some love, and told me like I can make it through this, right? Like I can make it through this, and that I wasn't gonna just be an addict my whole life, like, right? I was better than this, but yeah. So I remember just waking up in the back of an ambulance, and my parents were like, "What did you take? What did you take?" And then I went out again, and then I came to the hospital, and they said I overdosed on carfentanil. And
what's that?
It's just like because of the fentanyl I was taking, there were Oxy 80s with fentanyl in them.
Okay.
And that's what everybody was overdosing on because nobody thought they were doing fentanyl. It was just oxys, right? Anyways, so yeah, so I got into carfentanil, which was like 100 times stronger, like than heroin. So I was really hooked. Like I was doing it every 3 hours, or I'll start sweating, like profusely sweating if I didn't do it in 3 hours.
Did
or if
you
I
sleep even?
Yeah, but you're sleeping your whole life. You're down. It's a downer, right?
Okay.
So my whole life was like a fog. I don't remember a lot because I was always nodding off, right? And a lot. I thank God every day because so many times I can remember almost getting in car accidents or falling asleep at the wheel, and just scary. But anyway, so when I overdosed, that was a huge thing because my parents never seen me really using, like,
So even though they knew you were an addict, you were able to hide that from them.
I hid it from everybody, but by this point, you could tell.
And Amy has a Facebook page. What's your Facebook page?
Recovery Apparel and Support Group.
So she designed this logo, and it's of hands praying, and it's about, you can buy the sweatshirts and stuff, but it's about supporting. And on that page, there's a picture of Amy when she's in the throes of using, and it is not the same person you see sitting next to me today. Like, she looks 1,000 times different.
Yeah, legit.
I feel way different.
If you're out there using right now, go to that page and look at that picture, because guess what? That's what you look like. And unless you take a step outside of that realm and make different choices, that's the path that you're on.
Choose, yeah. Like, you're the only one that can get you out of that rut. You're stuck in a rut, and like no one can make the decision for you.
So how much money was it costing you to do this kind of fentanyl every day?
Like $500 a day.
$500 a day.
And that was minimum. So I would be like, people would walk all over me because I would do anything I had to, for money and whatever. And I had a brand new, beautiful truck that I worked so hard for, like a brand new Dodge pickup. And it's rallied now. It's a total write-off because of the choices I've made, right, through my life. And I don't dwell on that, but I learned from it, right? I learned from my past mistakes, and that's huge, right? But to go back to the overdose, that was like a huge thing in my life because my parents found me, and my dad ripped me off the couch, and I was blue, they said. And just hearing it from their side of the story, like, I'm like, oh my God, I put you guys through this.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize when you're in it.
Man, that's got to be hard. Any parent looking at their child in that way.
Yeah. And my mom, like, having to do CPR on me for 20 minutes. and
and waiting for the ambulance to
Yeah.
arrive. So the reserve that she lives on is 9 kilometers outside of town. I don't know exactly how many kilometers it is to the hospital, but there's definitely, you know, there's a 20-minute delay from getting there. So you got to remember that too. When you choose to use, it's not like you choose to use close to a hospital, close
Right.
to a medic, close to someone for
Totally.
safety.
Mhm.
I mean, you're at risk in the unknown.
Unknown. It's like Russian roulette, right? Like I use the same amount every day, but I was overdosing sometimes, and it goes like that analogy of the cookie. You can make a big batch of chocolate chip cookies, but you never know which one cookie has one too much chocolate chips,
Right.
right? You take one, that could be
Yeah.
the end of your life, right?
Wow.
And
So that's what you're saying. This is all street drugs. It's made on the street. It's not evenly dispersed. It's not like you're getting a precise amount. So you really don't know what's going to happen.
you
each
don't
time.
know. You don't know. I'm a support worker on my reserve now. I'm the healing and reintegration coordinator for my band, and I work with addicts, right? And a lot, you don't know what you're doing these days, right? They think they're doing coke, but then they do a drug test, they fail for fentanyl, right?
Wow.
And then these kids, they're thinking they're getting into coke, or they're getting hooked on meth, right?
Right.
Wow.
So it just they'll put anything in there to make money. They don't care. The drug dealers don't care about you or if you die or whatever. They just care about the money you give them and put into their wallet, right? So
Definitely.
mhm.
So was that the last time you overdosed?
Yeah, that was the last time. And then you helped me out because I was just fighting with my spouse at the time, but another big thing in my recovery was prayer, man. Like I had to put my faith in something, because like recovery isn't like quick. It's not quick. You have to have patience, you have to have faith, you have to have hope, and you can't just expect immediate gratification. Like you gotta work your ass off forever. It's an ongoing thing. I'm still working my ass off to stay clean and sober, but I wouldn't change it because I would never go back to the life I used to live, because
That makes you pretty tough because you're fighting every day, right? It's not like they say you wake up and quit every day, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea, but
and then helping people helps me, right? And like she said, talking about it is healing. And when you can talk about your story without bawling your eyes out, that's healing. And
yeah,
I remember the
I
first,
agree.
right? The
Me
first
too.
year I was sober, I was bawling. I'd fucking snot coming out of my nose. Oh, it was crazy. But yeah, I wouldn't change a thing, that's for sure. And just helping people, like in my own hometown, in my reserve, like I have a huge connection with a lot of these people, and just to seeing them hurt themselves like that, it hurts me. And that's what pushes me every day to do what I do. Just because if you can help one person, that's all that matters, right? And
Definitely.
Mhm.
You know, if you can inspire one person. So what happened? You know, you had your baby in the beginning and then they took your baby. So what
Yes.
happened there?
So so they took my son. I went downhill a lot. So that's what was leading me to overdosing. I had overdosed like 4 times, I think, in like a couple of months. And then, but that last time they're like, yeah, you died, like your heart stopped. So I was like, holy shoot, right? And then I stopped doing like fentanyl, and then I like kind of started going into the crack or whatever, but just still going downhill. It's any drug's a drug, man. Like you'll never get anywhere using those hard drugs like that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I don't know. Prayer was huge. I remember just sitting in my bathroom and just getting high, and then all day, every day for like 17 hours, just sitting there getting high and like nothing changing and just looking rough. And I remember my lung blew out like this. It was like pounding, and I ran up to the hospital. That was the last time I ever used, and that was
Holy.
September 21st,
That's
2018.
crazy.
Yeah.
So
and
what had happened there to you?
They said I sat too long. I sat too long, and my
What?
muscles right here were like
And
I
your
don't
lung
know.
just
Yeah, it was weird. And that scared me. I'm like, okay, now I'm like playing with my life,
Yeah,
like, right? And I have a
totally.
son.
Yeah.
And by this time he was like turning a year old. And I'm like, I put him through so much already. And he's just
So where did he live during that time that you didn't have him?
like everywhere.
No, you're Lincoln. Where did he live?
Oh, with my parents. Like so he got taken away, but they're and put with my parents, which they were trying to put him into Dawson Creek, which broke my heart. And So that was a eye opener. I'm like, if I don't turn my shit around, like my boy's gonna suffer for the rest of his life, and he doesn't deserve this, right? And you know, I'm putting this little beautiful boy through this, and so that was like a huge push.
And your parents also have quit drinking
Yes.
alcohol. And how long, Amy? Because
Yes, they paved the way for me. That's for
paved the
sure.
way, so
Yeah, but they were sick of my stuff, like that's for sure. At the end, they were like, "We're tough love, like we don't want nothing to do with you." Like they wouldn't even give me a ride. And
Wow.
then, right, and it's understandable, right? But sorry, what was your question?
so about Lincoln being with your mom and
Yes.
dad.
Yes, he was with my mom, and then I got clean. I was praying. I was like, just help me stay clean. Just help me stay clean. Why am I stuck into this rut? Like,
Mhm.
right? And then the next day I got a call for a job that I never even applied for.
Oh,
And they were like, we'll pay your way here. We'll buy your
What?
apartment. Yeah.
Come
I was
on.
like, God, you got me, bro.
divine,
Like, right?
divine intervention,
Yes.
right?
That's
And
cool.
then they're like, I got to Hudson's Hope, didn't have a car. They're like, here's a company vehicle. And I have a black eye from my ex. I'm like, oh my God. But they're like, what happened there? I'm like, I fell. But but anyways, so they gave me a car. They were like, pick out an apartment. They're like, you're working here for a year. And I was like, what? And it was just crazy. It was a miracle I needed. And I stayed clean that whole year because I had that support and those people, they believed in me, and people like Chastity, they never gave up on me. My parents, they're always pushing for me. And just once you make it a month, life starts getting better. Like it slowly but surely gets better. And
You start to believe in yourself.
yes. And when you have people that push and believe in you and they want you to make it through it, you start to believe you want to make it through this too, right? And 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 then if you get clean and then like me and then you help people, it's just like a chain reaction, right? It just keeps going and going. That one person that you help can potentially help 3 other people,
Yeah.
right?
What's the biggest deterrent now for you to keep that at bay?
What?
Using.
I love my life today, and it's
I think it's
beautiful
your
thing.
boy. It's your boy.
Yeah.
Amy's proud of her boy, and
Yeah, I
Amy
love him.
has her son back.
Yes, I do. And it took me a lot of work to get him back, but I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, like I put him through a lot, and yeah, it was a lot of work, but it takes consistency, and it happens. It happens, and a lot of people battle addiction, and a lot of people are just so think they're too deep down to get out of it, but it's not true, right? It's like the stigma that keeps us down and kicks us when we're down. But me getting clean and me talking to people like you, that's kicking that stigma to the side every day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just me coming out and just like sharing my story and being proud of my past. That is, killing the stigma today. So yeah, just my advice is just if the only way recovery will work, recovery is not for people that need it, for people who want it and really want it.
I like how you
right?
said that, Amy.
That
It's for
really,
people
really
who
want
it.
right? Because like I remember even trying to play you like a few times, like, and I didn't really want to quit. And you're just trying to hustle, right? You're just trying to hustle for money. But deep down I did really want to quit. But it's just finding what works for you. It's patience, and every day don't give up, right? And it's not one puzzle piece fits all. It's not. It's like you go into this with a pen and paper saying, what do you want to do? Goals. For me, it was debt because I was like, I was frauding. I was doing bad checks. I had like $80,000 of debt. Like,
Wow.
and that's not including my truck that got rolled. That was 30,000.
It's a heavy weight to carry.
Jesus. And then you don't want to get clean just because of that, right? Just like boom, like it hits you like a bricks, right?
So have you made headway on paying out your debt?
Yes, I'm almost out of debt. I actually just
Wow.
got a consolidation loan, which I pay just monthly, which is nice though. So like now that I'm a healing and reintegration coordinator, I use like what I've learned to help others. And like some things we're doing is credit like building, and because I'm like I didn't even know what credit was when I
Right.
got clean, and they're like, yeah, I didn't even have
A whole
anything.
new set of skills
Yeah.
that are given you. Oh, that's cool to have
Yes.
that kind of support.
Right. And life skills, like I'm trying to start a program for life skills. Like I never even cooked. All the groceries she got for me, like I didn't know what to do with them. Just
I remember like talking on the phone. okay, you're going to do this. This is how you're going to make it. And
Yeah.
you know that, and that's one of the reasons Brian and I had Amy on the show, is because just to show that when you reach out to someone and you often put food in the middle of the table,
Mhm.
the
It's a
dynamic
binder.
changes. Right now you're connected, and I know that I'm connected to Amy
Mhm.
and her son forever.
Mhm.
And you know, maybe someone in your life you can change too, and maybe you can help. Did you
Huge.
see a regular counselor through all of this or anything?
I tried. I used for 12 years. I was in and out of counseling like through my whole life, but like then again, I never took it serious and I took it for granted. You know, I kind of scoffed at it and I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need this. But you do. You know, mental health is huge. It plays a huge role in addiction. It affects the way we think and act and make our decisions. So, you know, once you start looking after yourself, I'm telling you, like life starts getting better slowly but surely. So, yeah, just keep looking after yourself. When you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you do good, right? So,
Mhm. And did you find that it was easy to get a counselor?
no, because like the amount of support we need in this town is, we're in crisis mode continuously. And I know this because I work as a support worker and I was drained all last year but I had to set my boundaries too, right? I can't be saving like the world or saving everybody. And like you, I try to just take in everybody and just be like, oh, my house, I have like
Don't worry,
rooms,
come
yeah.
over.
Yeah, you can start living with me. But no, that's not the right way to do it either. But yeah.
So I think that's not just limited to Fort Nelson. I think it's
Everywhere.
probably in your communities that's on here listening, is there is a lack of support workers. So you've got to reach out to who you can and find whoever it is that can be a positive support. And you
Mhm.
have to break that cycle of spending the time with the people who are sucking you back in, the people who are drawing you back down.
100%.
You know, and if you're headed off to university in September, which is right around the corner, I mean, I think this world needs a lot of mental health people. So,
Mhm.
you know, it might be
I've been through it
100%.
too.
right.
That's why I did that bike ride and raised some money for the Canadian Mental Health Association. Again, a wonderful resource that desperately needs all of our help. And even in Alberta, same thing. I've firsthand seen a shortage when you have like one doctor for like a crazy amount of patients that they literally give away their entire lives because they don't have any time for themselves. And often they go through struggles in their own lives and they have to put it aside because they're trying to do the good work that we need them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so allocating our resources to that is something I'm definitely going to start ramping up the more
Yeah,
we
and
get into this.
it's so important. Do you have some stories of people that have got on board with your journey now that you're recovered?
Yes, I can't hear. But that's okay. Hey?
Everyone can hear you.
Okay. So for in my recovery too, like that support system's number one, right? So I had a best friend, Miranda Dendies, like we grew up together
Mm-hmm.
and we used together for like 12 years straight and we got pregnant together and she quit and I didn't, right? And when I lost Lincoln, she was like, you can do better than this, man. Like, come on. And she really pushed me and she still pushes me to this day. So to have a friend that's doesn't beat around the bush, you know, and that tells you the straight up truth, that's the real friends and family that you need because, you know, or else like you won't know.
You're always stuck.
Yes.
And you don't know the truth of what's happening. So, you know, and that,
Mhm.
I mean, you might not be able, it might not be in a person, but it could be in a counselor. But like Amy
Mhm.
said, even when she was trying to get help and to get into the methadone clinic, there wasn't room for her. So,
Mhm.
you know,
And I had to drive like to Prince George as an addict. I was like going off the road and it was
Oh, wow,
bad. It
that's
was
wild.
bad. Yeah. And so, but in my recovery, like I've helped a lot of people. Like my phone's continuously blowing up, which I love though. Like I said, it helps me when I help
For what
others.
it's worth, you're still doing it right now.
you're
Mhm.
doing it. And I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how many people are listening and watching today, but I know they are listening and watching, and I know they're hearing this. So, you know, make sure you reach out to us if you have a story that you want to share, or reach out to Amy. Amy
Definitely.
through her Facebook page. it's so inspiring to scroll through and see the pictures of people
That changed their life
that are
around.
changing and
Yeah.
recovering. It wasn't that long ago. Amy had a cousin who
Mhm.
made it to 1 year recovery, and they spent some time doing traditional sewing,
Mhm.
and it's a big celebration. And
Yeah.
we have to celebrate these positive things because it isn't all about the party, but we can
Mhm.
still have celebration.
We can have fun without using. We can have fun without having a substance, like, and life. And you asked me a question too, and like about movement and stuff.
Yep.
That helped me my recovery so much. Not even just working out in the gym. I found that didn't work for me. What worked for me was going out on the land, hikes, going out to my grandparents' trap line,
Okay,
going
cool.
fishing. Like that worked for me.
So
you know.
getting back to traditional roots of what you
Mm.
grew up knowing and doing.
Yeah, and I just went. I did the Flower Springs hike, and just to like let my hair out and just like in
That's
the
so
wind, and I
cool.
was like, oh, this is the life. This is seriously the life.
You know, when you can reduce life to those being the most significant moments,
Exactly.
you've won. In my opinion,
Yeah.
you've won. It's so
Mhm.
that's so cool that you get to go and do all that stuff and enjoy life
Mhm.
unfiltered now, right?
Mhm.
It's not a fog. It's
Yeah,
legit.
I live every day to the fullest.
It's probably
Really.
much more intense than it ever has been. That's why when you come out of it and you start to feel emotional, it's like at this rush of
Emotions.
wow, right?
It's too much. It's overwhelming. That's why you have to be like, okay, there's a light at the end of this tunnel, and don't give up. Because that's what I see a lot of today is that, when they're like, oh, I'm a week sober, and they get like so excited, and the sparkles back in their eye and their colors back. And then boom, they're back using twice as worse because they're like, man, I'm in debt. I'm in this. I don't have a job.
Reality.
Reality, right?
You got to feel the feels
Yeah.
of what got you there.
Yeah, and that's why you
Yeah.
make a list, right? And I took 3 years. I'm still working on that list, checking things off of it, right? It just takes time.
So what kind of
Cool.
stuff is on your list? What do you put on that list, Amy?
So when I first got clean, I had absolutely nothing. I sold my belongings to get high. Like I had absolutely nothing. I sold my son's crib that he never even slept in.
Wow.
Just selfish, right? And so when I got clean, I was like, I'm gonna get my life back. I'm gonna get everything I lost, but I didn't dwell on it. I wasn't like, material things are everything. I was like, I have my life and that's what matters, right?
Mhm.
So I went to work. I seriously worked in the bush for like a year straight. I seen my son like 4 times in like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a truck. Right off the lot, and I bought all brand new furniture. And then there's that pride that comes in. It's like, oh, oops, sorry.
It's okay.
It's like I did all this
You did
hard
it.
work. I did it. I got my life back, And then once you feel so good about yourself like that, it's hard to give that up, Like,
And now Lincoln lives back with you full time.
I couldn't have, I can't see my life like without him. He's my everything. I live my entire life for him.
That's amazing.
And
so
it's not temporary.
No.
it's not.
It's
No, I
permanent.
got the paper saying he's mine. Yeah.
He is yours.
Yeah, and in court, it was just like 4 months ago. The court, I was like crying, and I knew that judge because I was always in and out of court. But they're like, Amy, and I was like, yeah. And then I just started crying, and they're like, man, you did it. Like,
Wow. Oh, that's so
yeah.
cool.
I got
It was
chills.
crazy.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
got chills. That's so cool.
But to go to that dark of a place in your life and to really come full circle and have that, man, there's nothing you could say that would,
Mhm.
I don't know, man. It's
There's
pretty cool.
nothing that will take that away from me. And because my spouse still struggles with addiction. He does. And people all go at their own pace. They'll do, when it's their time, it's their time. And I'm not saying anything bad about him, but I'd rather keep him away than hurt my son. You know what I mean?
So that's the choice you've made. He's not in your.
That's the
No.
boundaries.
Yeah,
part.
the boundary,
Right.
because I put my son first. He comes first
Good for you.
before my feelings, right? So and that's my mental health too. Like, dude, I worked 3 long years, hard, steady, to get everything back on track, to somebody just rip it away from you carelessly.
Mhm.
And it's just like, I don't deserve this. I don't need this anymore. And
Yeah.
right. So just having the self-love to do that too. And just because when I first made that decision, it was hard because we met each other in addiction, and I was so comfortable with him, and it was normal. But you just got to push yourself. And now life's so much better. I'm stress free. I live my life to my standards, and that's what matters, right?
That's awesome.
That's
And
pretty amazing.
you can't save anyone else until you save yourself.
For sure. And when people come to me for help, like I could tell because I live that life, right? Just like I could see right through it. Either they want to change or they're there just to, you know, because the addict will try to get anything, you know what I mean? They'll exhaust every resource. So so just to realize that. But to I forgot my train of thought.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I forgot my train of thought. But exhaust, but when they're ready, you can tell they're really ready, right?
What's the difference? What's the difference between someone who comes to you? What do you see that's different, that you know they're still on this path or they're ready to take
Just
the
the
leap?
way they talk, like they want me to slap a band-aid on it for them, and then they're not, it's not cured, it's not, they're not healing. Because they're slapping a band-aid on, I'm slapping a band-aid on for them, and then it just gets worse and worse, and then they have to deal
Okay.
with it in the end. Or they could work with me, they could do the footwork, and I could walk beside them and support their goals, right?
Right.
They can get the pen to the paper and write down their goals, but
Right.
if I'm there and being like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want? You know what I mean?
So they got to take that.
They got to
So
take that initiative, that
what kind
want.
of goals do you suggest? Like what if you know I came to you or someone came to you, what are you suggesting that they do? Like what's a goal?
Be consistent with somebody that clicks with you, like even if it be me, if it be a counselor, anybody, seriously, find that one person that's always down to be there and support you no matter what, and not just throw money at you and think you're just like a, you know, just try to find solutions or whatever, because there isn't one solution. It's an ongoing thing that you have to have patience for. So yeah, just finding that patience. And I struggled a lot with anxiety when I got clean. I would just dip, I would just run, because my anxiety and my stress level gets for nothing.
Because you weren't used to coping
Dealing
with it
with
without a
anything.
chemical in your body.
100%. And I remember even going into panic attacks, like having to go to work if I didn't have like my fix, right? So it's just dealing with those, coping with your feelings and even mental health issues or any issues for that matter. Because some people get into using through pain, right? And then they don't think they're gonna get hooked for life when the doctor gives them pain meds.
Yeah, that's
Right.
You
true.
know? Like
Yeah,
so
scary.
so everybody has a different story, and at the end of it, if you want it bad enough, you'll do the work, like the hard work that you need to do, and you know, life will get better. That's just it. And you know, I get bent out of shape doing talks like this, but in the end, it's like, it's, if you want it, you'll make it happen, right? And it's doable. I'm proof right here. Like, you know, I was so down and out. I lost everything 4 or 5 times in my life. And like, it doesn't define you. It doesn't define you, right?
It doesn't define you. It's just part of the story. It's just part of the bump in the road. That's for sure.
And it made me like who I am today. And like, and people like me are strong, and they're the people that help others move forward and stuff. So yeah.
So something I see Amy and her family do all the time is they're always, you know, and this connects it back to what we like. They're always cooking like really stellar good food. So I just seen Amy post a picture and it's like a shrimp boil or something.
Oh yeah, my mom's
Tell us about
deadly.
it. Was it deadly? Tell me
Yes.
about it. It looks so good.
But like she said, like food, right? Like even in my job, connection, like people are shy, they're scared to talk. But if you show up with like Timmy's or something and like a donut or something and a crib board, they'll talk to you all day. So it's just finding that ground, that connection,
and breaking that traditional cycle. So
yeah, and that
you know,
guard.
You got to remember, a lot of people who are using are probably not eating.
Yes.
So that's kind of Amy's like gateway into their world, because they're probably really hungry.
Yeah.
Right? Because they chose something else instead.
Yeah. I remember spending all my money on drugs, like never on like bills, food. My fridge was always empty. I don't ever remember having a food in my fridge when I was using. That was like 12 years. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like my mom, yeah, she's a big cook. And like I said, my dad's 11 years sober, and my mom's 7. And yeah, my mom's a great cook. And we have big family gatherings, right? Bedin family gatherings. And a lot of my family are clean and sober. So that was a huge support. And food, it brings everybody together, right? And yeah, even like my work, like it's so rewarding and very like positive, because we're always around food, and we're
Right.
always like having conversation, and yeah, it's just beautiful. It's life, right?
So to kind of summarize what you're saying about what helped you the most was just connection in general.
Mhm.
The opposite of addiction is connection, and the ability to just become like we were when we were cavemen. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous to say, but seriously,
Simple.
we had it figured out then.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
had a purpose in our small tribes. We worked together. We raised children together. We really leaned in on each other. We had a purpose. We cooked. We would tan the hides. Everyone had something that was, a fulfilling type of role in that. So
Yeah.
connecting is kind of the underlying message in all that.
Yeah, and I think
Huge.
also with all the trauma you've seen, dealing with the trauma,
Yeah.
getting it out and sharing that trauma with your group or with a counselor or wherever it might be.
Mhm.
Mental health is so big. And then Amy talked about movement. I remember when you tried the whole gym thing, and you did stellar. I have to say, you did really good. You lost a ton of weight and all that. But if it wasn't connecting and fulfilling you, then it wasn't your thing. So I like how you've said, going back on the land, doing traditional activities that you grew up seeing.
Mhm.
That's your
I,
purpose.
Healing,
I
it's
like
healing.
I like when you say that because I'm native too. I know I don't look like it, but I'm incognito. But I lean into it a lot as well. There's always something about when you find yourself at a powwow, when you listen to the drum, you feel so emotional. It just kind
Definitely.
of pulls it out. You have a sweat, and it
Mhm.
really gives you that
Mhm.
platform to let it out.
Mhm. That's what I'm trying to bring to like what my job right now is, like sweats and drumming and everything's so healing. Like just to go into the arbor and listen to them drum and have a
Yeah.
tea.
It was powerful.
So nice.
Just that treaty days there,
Mhm.
that was awesome. I couldn't
Mhm.
believe it. And even non-natives too, seeing them integrate into that and feel that same type of energy was such a connecting moment as well. Because
For
no
sure.
no one looked at them differently either. It was
Because
like,
we're all the same.
come on in.
We're all the same.
Yeah.
So
Everyone's welcome.
again, check out Amy's Facebook page. What's your Facebook page again, Amy?
Recovery apparel and support group.
Seriously, check it out. There are so many stories on there of people who have made a year, 6 months, 5 years.
Mhm.
It's beautiful to see. I have to be honest, there's tragedy on there because Amy does share when a friend or family member has lost their life to
Mhm.
addiction.
I've just lost 7 this year to overdose.
So those are part of the story. But feel free to reach out to us and talk to us about your story so that we can get that out there. The more of us who share our stories, who share our hurt and become vulnerable, the easier it's going to be to start a journey of recovery.
Mhm.
That's the easiest way for us to make it happen. And Amy talked a lot about boundaries and setting boundaries. And at all times as a recovering addict, you have some vulnerabilities. So you've had to set some pretty serious boundaries in your life.
Huge. Still do. People still come knocking at my door and it's unbelievable. Or they'll be like, come hang out. And they know damn well I'm clean, right? But just people always try to pull you down. You know what I mean? You just gotta
So
stay
instead
strong.
of trying to pull people down and bring out the negative so we're all down, let's continuously try to lift people up and continue to share a story of hope. And like Amy said, find prayer so you can get through this. And we've talked about it before, using meditation, using gratitude journals, writing
Huge,
goals.
huge, yeah.
All of those little tips is what's going to help you change your story
Mhm.
into something new.
We're going to do our best to build those resources. We need to foster this. But in the meantime, I believe that being there for these individuals is the best thing that we can do. Socially engineer ourselves to start looking at addiction in a much different way. It isn't to shun these people,
Mhm.
to say, wow, this is a lonely individual that has completely isolated themselves and unplugged from life in general. And we need to reach out and just continue to be that hand to the best of our ability. Don't
Exactly.
get burned. Don't let yourself get walked on. Have the boundaries.
But even
Yeah.
a smile can change a person's day.
100%.
And a conversation,
That's
like
a good one.
I remember like my friend, like in Fort St. John, okay, I seen him, he's seen me, and I was 1 year clean, and I was jumping in my nice truck, and then this guy was like, Amy, And I looked and there was a guy I used with and I had my son and he was like, what? Like he didn't recognize me and he hugged me so tight
It's crazy.
and he was crying. He was like, you made it. That's what he told me. And I was like crying so hard.
Well,
But-
that's the thing, is like helping people make it to the other side, and
Yeah.
And
And-
he like didn't make it.
he didn't make
No,
it.
he didn't make it. So it's like sad because you see like somebody so broken down like that, right?
Yeah.
But just think of all the people that you have helped
Yeah.
make it, right?
And,
Mhm.
and are continuing to.
Right.
You know, that Facebook group, that's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
I'm glad that you have something like that, because I'll definitely
Mhm.
check that out. And
Cause like you
Help
gotta
support.
think about like that too, like, cause they're so down and out, like in the dark. And then just to somebody to be like, oh, like spit on them and be like, they're just an addict and
Yeah.
they just like, they're
Mhm.
just, oh.
just dismiss them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
it's
you
just
don't
like,
know the story, and that's why we started with asking, like, where did it start? You know, you were surrounded by people using. That's how it
it was
started.
normal, yeah.
But I mean, I think people forget there is a trauma, there is a hurt, there's something that started this pathway,
Mhm.
and it wasn't just like, oh, gee, I think I would like to be an addict today. You know,
Yeah.
that's not where the
Right.
story started.
Right.
So if you want to
Absolutely
help
not,
people,
yeah.
you've got to be willing to hear their whole story.
And now that I like work in the justice department, like helping people that went through stuff similar to my life, is like, I remember the first time I got arrested and just like thrown in jail and just treated like shit,
Wow.
like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like if somebody like me was waiting outside those doors, right, waiting to be like, well, that was a shitty night, wasn't it? And just kind of be there to support them,
Mhm.
maybe that would have changed my life there. But I got charged and then that just threw me in jail and then just make me angry and angry and I just
Right.
keep going.
Right.
Locking people up isn't the answer. It's they need to heal. There's obviously an underlying issue that's been bothering
They
them.
need to be heard.
They're coping, right?
And so how do you deal with your stress and anger?
I write. Here's my journal. Oh, I write like every day. I lost my sister in my recovery and like I was with her like on her deathbed and she was like, I'm so proud of you because she's seen like me and like down and out and she was like she was like, promise me you'll never go back, right?
Mhm.
So that was like a big thing and just life in general, it's so much better. It's I wake up every day grateful. I thank God every day. And if you don't believe in God, it's a higher power as you know him. Just you have to talk to somebody. You have to give your stress and your problems to somebody because like you said in your other episode is like just because you have a problem and you're gonna stress about it all day doesn't fix that problem. So why
Right.
stress about it? So yeah, sure. I get into my book and I write down once about my goals and my budget, what bills I need to pay this month. Then leave it, put it away, and like know that in the back of your head, and then just work hard. Like one of the things was working for me. Like I worked and it was just a good job and it was a good environment. And when you're in a good environment, like good things happen and all that. But so that helped me. So find a positive environment, positive people, find people that you want to be like and just hang with them, man. Like that's what I do. People come just watch movies with me, eat popcorn, whatever.
In a positive mindset.
In a positive mindset.
Yeah. And then they
Shut
come
the
in my
head, yeah.
house, and they're like, I want this.
I want this life.
Yeah.
And Amy is a complete inspiration to us. So we'd like to just thank you all for tuning in this morning to Jess FM and Jess TV streaming live on Roku. We will be here again next Sunday. Amy won't be with us next Sunday, but if you do have questions for Amy, feel free to reach out to us. Amy is probably going to come back on the show and share more because she is too wants to inspire people. So that's what we're trying to build, is a community and a support community here. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, and we will see you next Sunday morning.
And remember, you're not alone.
You're not alone. Have a good day.